Good evening. My name is Fred Litwin. I'm the president of the Free Thinking Film Society. I want to thank you for coming out for, I think it's going to be a really interesting evening. For those of you who know me, you know, we put on events once a month, these days once a month, and ultimately we'll have our film festival in October. Our next event is going to be April 10th, and we're going to bring in an author to discuss his new book on anti-Semitism in the Muslim world. That will be a very interesting event on April 10th. May 13th, we're going to bring in Daniel Pipes, who's going to come in and talk about Islam. And then in June, we're going to have the Canadian premiere of a film. I won't tell you too much about it, but a film that has taken Poland by storm. So three very interesting events. Now tonight, before we get into the film, I thought, you know, the film's an American film on political correctness, and it's a very good film, but I thought it would be good to basically try to put some of this into a Canadian context and go through political correctness in Canada. So I prepared a little presentation for you tonight. The first thing is that, you know, I'm on this mailing list with a bunch of friends, and every week or so, I get an email from one of my friends about a course being taught somewhere in Canada at some university that's complete nonsense. I mean, you might have this postmodernist, deconstructionist, whatever you want to call it, that's taken over our universities, has enabled complete gobbledygook to take over what they're doing. And so I have some examples here of courses that are being taught in Canada. So I don't know if you can read it, I'll go through this with you, but here is one from the U Institute for Global Issues. This is in British Columbia. This is an event they're having. I love the title, Opera Aperta, Fragmented Archives, Impermanent Allegories, and Open-Ended Revolutions. Now, what does that mean? I mean, can anybody actually understand what this is all about? The chair is Sunera Thobani, who is like one of the worst radical feminists going. And Hamid Dabashi, who is one of the guys who's speaking here, he believes that Islamism is a liberation theology. So this is, what do you want to call this? But this, you can barely understand it. And of course, one of my points is like, how many people really want to attend this anyways? Robert? No questions. Sorry, you can ask it later.
Okay, right, so I'm a little bit.
Here's Robert. Here's the next one. This has a great title. Toxicity Incorporated. Toxic assets, privileged bodies, and the effects of toxic management. It's part of the Social Justice at UBC Noted Scholars Lecture Series. So they're bringing in people to talk about this crap. And if you want to read this, I mean, again, I don't even know what it means, but appeals to the toxic are persuasive today, whether leveraged in a medical, environmental, economic, or social sense. While toxicity is seemingly given transparent responsibility for actual effects in human, often privileged, the incidence of cancer in these co-present with certain toxic elements, I mean, I can't even read it. I mean, it's beyond belief that this is the sort of stuff that gets taught in universities. Then you go to some of the student newspapers. Here is a column from the McGill Daily from October 2012, You Are Racist. And basically this was a column about how everybody, whether you are or not, everybody's a racist. So what is racism? Racism is assuming anything but about anyone based on a perceived deviation from a racial norm known as white. To put it simply, white is the unmarked and racialized bodies are the marked. Racism is the assuming that white is the central node from which one departs to evaluate otherness. Huh? What? Really? But again, this is the sort of crap that students write for each other. And where did they get this from? They get it from those professors who are teaching those other courses that we saw earlier. I'd like to actually hire some of these people. Here's one. Keywords in gender and sexuality studies of the present, tracing effects, mobilities, and knowledges. Right? Taught by Dr. Mary K. Bryson, the Institute for Gender, Race, Sexuality, and Social Justice. Now again, you try to read this one. Focusing on key issues at the intersection of cultural studies, pedagogical practices, feminist and critical race theory studies, and queer theory, this weekly seminar offers graduate students an opportunity to engage with intersectional and pro-structuralist scholarship. What the hell is intersectional and pro-structuralist scholarship? You know, I mean, and people pay money for this. Okay, there's another example here. Ecology, technology, indigeneity, and learning. Context, complexities, and cross-cultural conversations. Thank God it's only Tuesday and Thursdays. I don't know if anybody could take more than that. Now again, I apologize for the text. I don't know if you could read it, but it's even hard for me to read out loud. But it's all complete nonsense. And you know, there's actually a place on the web that generates some of this. It's a nonsense machine. You type in some words and it creates these sort of course descriptions. It's an amazing site. Here's one. Young people in the global imaginary, history, empire, and identity politics in transnational borderlands. It's open to doctoral and master's students. Only people who graduated could get into a course like this. You have to be very smart to take something like this, because if you don't have a university degree, you can't understand this crap. I don't even want to read it. Let me go into, again, another student article from the Charlatan. Opinion. Stop perpetuating white supremacy. Riley Evans, November 1st, 2012. And again, this is what racist and white supremacist ideas are not gone. They're just becoming more subtle and more sneaky. And because we have these extreme stereotypes, blah, 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 the more nuanced ones will be able to filter their way into mainstream discourse, without anyone really noticing. So you don't even notice racists are all over the place in this discourse. And this includes the Carleton campus. I mean, it's full of white supremacists. Well, we already do that. We have a few of them here. Stand up. So we have 2 white supremacists here. Thank you for coming, or 3. Thank you very much for showing up. This one I like. Emerging scholars contributing to critical race feminist scholarship. Join us for an evening of presentations by UBC graduate students who will discuss their interdisciplinary doctoral research. This is their doctoral research and their experiences as PhD students. Of course, experiences where they experience white supremacy as they go into topics. I mean, I love this one. The making of Vancouver status of women's affirmative action policy, contesting hegemonic discourses of power. That was a barn burner. I mean, I wouldn't want to, I'm sorry I missed that one. Then we have a theory workshop here. Affect, Resonance, and Revolution. This is the Department of Anthropology. And this is all about critical theory and analytical interventions in the making of political transformations. The speaker bio. Gaston's current research explores an approach to the spatiality of politics that aims to rethink the feverish concept of the production of space along the lines of a biopolitical, immanent, effective, and mobile understanding of power and the multitude. What? Really? And we pay people like this. Okay, so this is sort of the gobbledygook that we now have in universities. And, you know, I mean, this should be a national scandal. This is a disgrace. You know, it does nobody any good. I thought it would be important to look at some free speech issues on Canadian campuses. Of course, you probably didn't miss the Carleton University free speech wall. So here's where some students put up the free speech wall, and the next day they were torn down by a student in human rights, 7-year students in human rights, Arun Smith. Now, I don't know how many of you actually read Arun Smith's rant about why he took down the free speech law. But it's only a university graduate could write something like this. I mean, ordinary people can't write like this. I mean, look at what he said. We are supposed to be creating safer spaces for ourselves and for other students, but there could be no safer spaces where there is potential for triggering the invalidation or the questioning of identities of others and or the expression of hatred. Prior to undertaking this action, I contacted Equity Services, who decided to abandon a commitment to serving students. In fact, they referred me to the Student Association, who abandoned a commitment to serving students themselves quite a while ago. When one has little to no institutional support, meaning nobody supported me, and where those who are supposed to protect, abrogate, or abdicate their responsibilities, there is little recourse beyond acts of resistance. Some students with whom I spoke called the area around the wall, where the wall stood, a war zone. There's a war zone around a free speech wall, which underlines the realities of our lives, I guess his life. We are at war, in a war for our own survival, where to exist we resist, and to resist we exist. That's kind of, it's poetic, right? Where to exist we resist, and to resist we exist. I don't know what it means, but he's a poet. You know, as I said, I was quoted in this article in the National Post, only a university graduate could write such trash. Then we go back a few years. This was one of my favorite incidents at Carleton. This is the Shine-A-Rama fundraiser for cystic fibrosis, where the student government decided that they would stop it because it's an illness that only targets Caucasian men. Now, whether or not that was true, it's not true, but who cares? But this is the sort of nonsense that goes on in the university. Now, ultimately, they saw the error of their ways and put back Shine-A-Rama, but you know, nobody could believe this could actually happen in today's society. Now, of course, we do have some very important events on campus. Here's Carleton, where you can invite in the worst communists, the worst radical idiots from Iran to come in and celebrate the Ayatollah Khomeini, right? Now that's okay, but God forbid you're pro-life. Then you'll get arrested. This is what goes on in campus today, you know, so you could celebrate the Ayatollah Khomeini, that great man, but if you're pro-life, you know, they're going to escort you off campus.